I've had a bit of a rough go of it recently as far as my personal life is concerned. So, in an effort not to drive myself deeper into a depressive spiral while still giving y'all a video this week, I figured I might as well sit back and have a chat about a movie I have a lot of love for that has seemingly been getting more attention recently. Megamind. So, what is Megamind? It's an animated movie from DreamWorks that came out in 2010 and made approximately $300 million at the box office. It had a good opening and was generally favorably reviewed, but it still kind of slipped away into irrelevance after a while, which is honestly just a travesty. We got, 3 Despicable Me's, and Minions have been the scourge of Facebook walls everywhere for years, while Megamind languishes in obscurity? Truly, people have no taste. But let's rewind a bit. What is this movie about, and why do I love it so much? Megamind is, unsurprisingly, the story of Megamind, the resident supervillain of Metro City, caught in a classic supervillain-superhero damsel-in-distress dynamic with local hero Metro Man and reporter Roxanne Ritchie. Until one day Megamind seemingly triumphs and kills Metro Man, to the shock of absolutely everyone, including himself. And in the aftermath, he finds himself directionless and bored, and begins to question everything about his life choices. Also, spoiler, but this movie is, at this point, 12 years old. Metro Man isn't dead. He faked his death to escape the spotlight and focus on his love for music. Megamind and Roxanne, meanwhile, have a dynamic that's so fun to see on screen because from the word go, it's obvious she is not the least bit scared of him. The damsel-in-distress role is old hat, they have banter, and at the end of the movie, they get together. While I do actively adore them, I am not above admitting that them getting together at the end of the movie was perhaps a little hasty given the givens, but I'll leave it to the good folks at Cinema Therapy to explain that in further detail if you're interested. Metro Man is a really obvious and unsubtle Superman spoof, down to the backstory of being sent into space to escape his planet's destruction. The only difference is that where Clark Kent landed in Kansas and was raised by good people to be a good man, Metro Man landed in a millionaire's home and was raised with, frankly, ridiculous amounts of privilege and, well, it's implied, a rather emotionally neglectful father at the very least.
A baby! How thoughtful!
Oh, yes, I saw it and thought of you.
He was, in every sense of the word, set up for success. Megamind, meanwhile, is very much the opposite. He shares Metro Man's backstory of being shot into space to escape a dying planet, but his pod was knocked off course by Metro Man's, and instead of landing anywhere even slightly appropriate for the growth and development of a child, he landed in prison. Now, ignoring the inherent absurdity of a literal infant being locked up in an adult prison for adults, because this is a movie and we suspend our disbelief when necessary, this setup is a marvelous first spot to tackle one of the things I adore about this film. Megamind is not shy about its message of how, if a child is only ever told they're bad and everything they do is interpreted to be malicious, even when it might be down to, being a kid and not knowing how the world works yet, then guess what? They'll probably give up trying to be good and just lean harder into the reputation that's already been forced on them because what would be the point of trying to correct it at this point? It doesn't matter if they might not actually want to be bad. It's what the world expects of them, so that is what they shall be. I don't think I'm the only neurodivergent kid who saw himself in Megamind's repeated failure to bond with his classmates. While for me, my autism manifested in ways that got me labeled the teacher's pet and singled out as an easy target for the bullies in my class, Megamind's attempts to gain his classmates' adoration gets him into constant trouble. And because he is already labeled as a bad kid, no one ever gives him the benefit of the doubt, which eventually leads him to capitulate and dive headfirst into his assigned role of the villain. In a truly marvelous bit of subtle character work, Metro Man himself actually serves to complement Megamind in this. It's not super obvious because the movie isn't about him, but Metro Man's midlife crisis moment is another example of someone being steered into a role they're not too jazzed about. Metro Man is the embodiment of the jock who peaked in high school and went on to play some professional sport only to have his entire sense of self and reality come crashing down around him when the layers of denial finally fade away and he realizes he's absolutely miserable. At his core, Metro Man never wanted to be anything more than just another guy, and Megamind always wanted to be a good person. And never is that more apparent than when Megamind's ultimate goal as a villain has seemingly been fulfilled. A supervillain who was actually in it to be a villain would have a plan for what to do once he'd taken out the hero, but Megamind loses steam very quickly. He essentially throws himself a party and then sits down and realizes the dynamic has changed and has a crisis because there's no one to tell him what to be anymore. His ultimate plan, after defeating Metro Man, becomes to create another Metro Man. A new hero to fight him, to return to the familiar because the new is threatening to make him confront some things about himself. But of course, that goes disastrously wrong, and he ends up having to defeat the true villain of this movie, a superpowered incel. A horrifying concept, truly. This is where we get into the second thing I love about this movie. In having Megamind ultimately be the hero, we, the audience, get to enjoy all the camp of your traditional Saturday morning cartoon villains without the unfortunate blowback of, well, yet another queer-coded villain. There are a lot of lenses you could view this movie through, but I'm about to do it through a queer one because I am queer, and also... yeah. The queer coding could be seen from space. And yes, I said coding, not baiting. They are not the same thing, and I kind of want to revoke the internet's right to call queerbaiting until they learn the difference. What is the difference, you ask? Presentation! For instance, Megamind is queer-coded because he pulls a lot of inspiration from traditionally queer-coded villains. He is not queerbait because to be queerbait, he would have to be actively used by the creators in an effort to draw in a queer audience, which did not happen. But back to my point, Megamind's story also carries a lot of meaning when read through a queer lens. I already talked about how I relate to him as an autistic man, but I also relate very heavily to him as a queer man. Especially, if I'm going to be honest, a genderqueer trans man. Megamind and Metro Man are both aliens, but Metro Man looks human, so he has an easier time finding a place in human society. Megamind, meanwhile, is ostracized and criminalized from the moment he lands on the planet as a literal infant. It calls to mind how any sign of queerness in children, especially those assigned male at birth, is targeted and stamped out. To the point where even teaching our sons how to healthily process their emotions is discouraged because real men don't cry. It's a deeply toxic mindset that is thankfully drawing more and more criticism in recent years. In taking on the role of villain, in a backwards sort of way, Megamind actually gains some freedom from the restrictions society usually puts on men to conform. He's the villain, so of course he can wear skin-tight leather, platform boots, and eyeliner. He doesn't have to conform to society's standards because he's already outside of them. He can be as flamboyant and out there as he likes. No one expects him to be the masculine ideal, so while he may be trapped in a role he doesn't want, at the very least it's allowed him to actually explore the fashion and music that he likes. It's more than a little disappointing to see him in the white cape at the end of the movie, but underneath it he's still wearing his classic blue and black combo, so all is not lost. I know it's symbolic of Metro Man passing the torch and all that, but I can understand the symbolism while still wishing he could have brought a little more of his own essence into the final scene of the movie. That being said, Megamind and Roxanne have the strongest buy-for-buy energy I've ever seen. In conclusion, Megamind is great, go watch it. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye!